Conceive, believe, achieve.
This is former UFC middleweight champion of the world, Michael Bisping.
Paddy the Baddy here. You're listening to Combat Sports UK.
And you're watching Combat Sports UK.
Welcome back to the Combat Sports UK podcast. In today's episode, we are going to be reviewing UFC 309. It's a Jon Jones fight week. It's a Madison Square Garden fight week. And I am delighted to be joined by Jon and Dan, as always. Jon, how are you? You missed last week. You were away in Edmonton watching the Canadians do their thing. How's things with you?
Everything's great. How about you guys? Saw the pod. Thanks for the shutouts. Very exciting event.
Dan, thank you very much for coming on, as always, as well. Dan won't be joining us for the review pod because he's very, very luckily going on a cruise on Thursday for a week. So he's tuning in here just before his holiday.
I will. I'll give my picks, and then when I get into port, I'll be checking them frantically and making sure that Charles Oliveira is back in title contention. We can all hope.
We can hope. We're going to break that down now. Obviously, the main event for this, there's a whole lot of controversy around this fight. Tom Aspinall, it's going to be hard to talk about it without discussing him, but we'll just put him on the sideline for now, and we'll talk about the heavyweight title fight that we do have ahead of us, whether you agree with it or whether you don't. A fact we can all agree on is that this is the greatest of all time against the greatest heavyweight of all time. This is the way the UFC selling it, and it is true. I still don't agree with the fight being made, but this is true that it is the greatest of all time taking on the greatest heavyweight of all time. We've Stipe Miocic returning after 3.5 years off. Jon Jones returning after 1.5 years off. If ring rust was a thing, it's definitely going to be shown in this fight from one of the two of them. Stylistically, if this is the Stipe we've seen before, in my opinion, he may offer Jones some problems. He's an all-rounder. There is no clear path to victory for Jones in the same way that Ciryl Gane was. I keep forgetting that Jon Jones is the heavyweight champion, and he actually hasn't taken a punch from a heavyweight, which is absolutely mental. Of course, he got the takedown against Ciryl Gane. There was an easy path to victory, but if Stipe is the Stipe of old, Jon, do you think he can offer a challenge to Jon Jones here?
Probably for like a round or two maximum, but I don't think much of a challenge will be given. Especially, you still have to consider his age, consider his last fight, consider the time off. He got brutally knocked out in his last fight, which is 3.5 years ago, like you said. He took 3.5 years off. He hasn't fought anybody. He technically was ready. He had a fight camp for Jon Jones a year ago today. So he was ready to go in the ring, and despite he didn't get any injuries, so he should have a full now 6-month fight camp for Jon Jones. Be prepared for him. That's the advantage he'll have is that he is a heavyweight. He had the belt. He defended the most times at UFC heavyweight division. He faced heavyweight fighters. He put away some heavyweight fighters. That's the advantage Stipe would have over Jones, especially the fact that Jones never took a punch from a heavyweight, fought light heavyweights. The closest heavyweight he fought is DC, and I want to say that's been 10 years ago now, if it's not more. So, and DC was making light heavyweight at the time, so that's the only advantage I see Stipe having. I think it'll be actually a good challenge for Jones, but it feels like a challenge you would do to somebody who was light heavyweight champion, and you'd move him up to heavyweight to fight the contenders. And then Stipe was one of the contenders who's a former champion, and it'll be a great look on your resume.
And the reason it feels like that is because this isn't the best fight you can make at heavyweight. That is why Stipe does feel like a bit of a contender, because in paper, Tom Aspinall is the number one contender ahead of Stipe. But in terms of this fight then, stylistically, Dan, can you see Stipe offering anything? We've seen Stipe in with good strikers, beating good strikers, the likes of Ngannou. He's got a couple of wins over Daniel Cormier. So his wrestling is very, very good. He is a good all-rounder here. What way can you see Jones kind of taking this fight to get the advantage over Stipe?
Well, I think with this type of fight, you are looking at Stipe Miocic we have not seen him fight like we've repeatedly said, 3.5 years. The ring rust is going to be there. But I think for Jon Jones, although his only fight has been Cyril Gane in the past 2 years or so, he has had that activity. And I've seen training clips of Jon Jones over the past 6 to 8 months. I did not seen barely anything of Stipe. So it's very much like I'm seeing Jones. I can't see any way that sort of Stipe causes those problems for him, unless it is, like John said, it's that heavyweight power. What if Jones does get clipped? Can he take that heavyweight shot that he could take from Daniel Cormier 10 years ago? That's a possibility. But for Jones, like I said, he's been a light heavyweight all his career, but he's still got a size advantage against Stipe. He's still going to have the range. He's still going to have the reach. So I think for Jones, it'd be a case of sort of keeping it for as long as possible. But unfortunately, I'm leaning now towards it. I think Jones can get this done wherever he wants it. I think he can get this finished on the feet, but I think he can definitely get it finished on the ground, whether it's a quick submission or not. But I think for Jon Jones, it's a case of staying away from that power hand and definitely keeping the range, I think. But for Jones, I'm not seeing many problems being caused by someone like Stipe Miocic. And those, I mean, someone like, even if he was fighting, say, Sergei Pavlovich, I'd have far more concerns for Jon Jones in that fight. Stipe is just purely a case of inactivity. I don't actually know what I'm gonna. I saw the man limping at a UFC event for like 5, 6, 7 events ago. So I don't know what I'm gonna see when he comes into the octagon. That's my main sort of concern. I can't really see where Stipe wins this fight. I think for Jones, could be mainly his range control is going to be his main factor in this fight. But I think for him, he could get this done however he wishes, I believe.
Let's create a hypothetical scenario here, John, and we're all picking Jones here, and we do think that he can take it wherever he wants. Let's take a hypothetical scenario. Stipe Miocic comes in, and he's been training for the past 3.5, 4 years, and he's the Stipe Miocic of old. Let's take age out of it. Both these guys in their prime. Do you think Stipe Miocic could get one over Jon Jones if he comes in and is prime Stipe? The chances are slim, but if it does happen.
If this was prime Jones and prime Stipe, is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
This would be an incredible fight. But this is 5 years in the making. I feel like it would still look like the fight. It would look like in their prime, but much slower, much more heavier, much more sweaty, and
more gray hairs.
More gray hairs, yeah. I think I'm gonna spoil my pick. I thought it was gonna go to decision no matter what with this Jones versus Stipe. But even if they're prime, I thought it was gonna go to decision. But I think it's gonna be much more bloodier. I think Jones will hit some nice elbows, some nice kicks. I think Stipe will get some nice takedowns. Will probably come back a few rounds. I just think this is a fight a bit too late, and Jones will get it done either way, because I've never seen, except against Reyes, I've never seen Jones being defeated, losing, having a hard time against opponents. He would always dominate, and Stipe has a way of coming back, walking away backwards and knocking out people. So if it was in their prime, this fight would have been 10 times more exciting. And if there was no Tom Aspinall in the UFC, I would have been crazy hyped up for this fight. It's tough. It's tough to say how this fight will go, because we've seen them both in their prime. We haven't seen them in so many years now as well. And if you ignore the Cyril Gane fight, Jones hasn't fought since 2019 before Gane. So that's 5 years, and he has been in the cage for 30 seconds or a minute and a half. They're both having long layoffs, both getting old, both haven't been in competition, high level competition, both haven't been facing the punches of a real fight, both have been having the pressure of a real fight, being headlining MSG in a while. There's a lot of what do you call them? A lot of
factors.
Sorry?
Different factors going into the fight.
A lot of factors. There's a lot of factors. It's there's a little star next to this fight. I think it's gonna go. It would have been. This fight's gonna go exactly like it would have happened if it happened 5, 7 years ago. but much, much, much slower, more sloppy, more gray hair, like you said. But I think a lot of heavy breathing by round 3. Like that's how I envision this fight going.
And it is interesting because it is a 5-rounder, of course, and like it's so unknown. It is so unknown where these two are at, and it's just incredible that they're even fighting for a heavyweight title. We can now bring the main man into the situation here. We'll start talking about him, Tom Aspinall. After this fight, what's going to happen, Dan? I think more people's interested to see what happens after this fight than what actually happens during it. Tom Aspinall is going to be there, cage side. Do you think they'll do a face-off? There's no way Jon Jones is going to allow any kind of face-off. But do you think Jon Jones is going to retire? Do you think Stipe is going to retire? Is Tom Aspinall even going to get a shot? What way is this going to play out after?
I think you've got as good a guess as me. Like you said, it is completely unknown to anyone. I think for Tom Aspinall, I'm leaning towards Tom Aspinall's point of view. This feels like a retirement party. This feels like, Jon Jones, well done. You've beaten Stipe. Here you are. Here's your nice, shiny Hall of Fame space you were going to get anyway because you're the greatest of all time. This win doesn't really mean anything. Here you go. Here you go. Ride off into the sunset. Put that belt down. Tom Aspinall come in and pick it up now and run with it. But I think, unfortunately for Tom, it does feel like that retirement party. I can see both of them retiring no matter the result. For Tom Aspinall, this week I'm doing everything I can. I'm tripping Jon Jones up in the lobby. I'm pushing Stipe down the stairs. I'm just trying to get my title fight. I like I said it. So for Tom Aspinall, I think he's just not necessarily go about it in a bad way, but cause a bit of havoc this fight, which I feel like he's going to be doing. I feel like he might, it might be a steer in the media, but I think he's pretty respectful. Like I said, we like all the duck comments. He might have a chicken suit on at some point. Something like that. But I think for Tom Aspinall, unfortunately, it's going to be a retirement party for both people involved, and it would just be a case of Tom will be fighting at some point next year for the full belt that he does claim once it becomes vacated.
You know what we're forgetting? That Jones is the biggest troll on this planet. I think I mentioned it in the past.
Yeah.
I think Stipe is going to definitely retire. He has a good job on the side. Very honorable job on the side as a firefighter. We know that's his full-time job and fighting's part-time, which is the cool part about him. But Jones is full-time troll, part-time fighter. What Jones can see, and you've been kind of seeing in the media, and I feel like I brought up in a past podcast, is the fella Alex Pereira at light heavyweight, who's been wanting to fight at heavyweight, who's been talking about Aspinall and Jones been fighting, talk about his name recently. Wouldn't that be the biggest troll job if Jones beats Stipe and ignores Tom Aspinall and gets a fight with Alex Pereira before he retires? Because we know Jones would probably want an easier fight versus Pereira than a tougher fight versus Tom Aspinall. And I think that's what Jones will do. I think Jones will take the Pereira fight, call Dana. Dana loves him.
Well, the UFC offer him it, but surely it's on the UFC. The UFC is built on meritocracy. As you just said, this isn't boxing. The best fight the best. If Alex Pereira steps up, jumps the queue ahead of a defending interim champion, belts mean nothing in the UFC if that happens. It completely tarnishes everything, in my opinion. How you can... It just shouldn't happen. It should not happen. Tom Aspinall has proved he is the guy. He is the next man. Yes, Alex Pereira is a superstar. Financially, I think Jon Jones thinks financially the Alex Pereira fight is bigger. It may sell more, but which one gets him more credit? There's a path to victory against Alex Pereira. To me, him fighting Alex Pereira is similar to the Cyril Gane fight. Pereira is an unbelievable striker. We haven't really seen his wrestling tested too much, so we can't diminish it too much. But we can guarantee that his wrestling isn't as good as Jon Jones. But I think Tom Aspinall's is. If that happens, the UFC is in for a whole lot of hate, and I think it does tarnish. It tarnishes everything that they've built their business on, and it will be a hard one to come back for it. And especially, how can the UFC create an interim title and have it mean anything if Tom Aspinall gets overlooked? If you hear the word interim title in future after that, you're just going to think it means nothing. It means nothing because it won't.
How many times like us MMA fans, when we heard an interim title on the line, we're like, oh yeah, crazy, he's gonna become interim champion. No, right? We never thought
It means
that.
he gets the shot next.
Means he gets the shot next, yes.
Yeah.
However, how you still make an excuse like, don't we want to see Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gane? France versus England, and then you push that to the side. Jones might be injured. Tom will just fight, so he's gonna be medically suspended. You know what I mean? Something like that's gonna happen. The UFC has that kind of power to make it happen. Like Jones will be, he's gonna take time off. Tom wants to keep active. He's gonna fight Gane or the winner of Gane and Volkov. He's gonna headline England or Paris, and then medically suspended. Oh, Jones is ready to fight. Oh, look who hasn't fought in a while, Pereira.
How much does that tarnish? Let's say it does play out this way, Dan, which would be completely horrible. How much does that tarnish Jon Jones' legacy? If he retires, he beats Potan, retires, he never fought Ngannou, he never fought Aspinall. What does that do to his legacy?
I think it proves what everyone's been sort of saying about him. Like you said, he's picking those fights. Like you said, you saw. We don't want to compare the UFC's boxing, but that's what we are doing. That's what we will be doing. Floyd Mayweather, at the end of his career, who was he choosing to fight? He chose to pick on a Japanese kid over in Japan and beat him up for like 5 minutes. It's one of those things. You don't want to see Jon Jones at the end of his career picking and choosing people to maintain this record that he now believes is completely untainted because of the removal of the 12-6 elbow. So for Jon Jones, like I said, Jon Jones is one of the baddest men on the planet. He is not scared of a single person. What he is afraid of is tarnishing that legacy. And what I think he doesn't understand is him avoiding this Aspinall fight, because that's what he is doing. Him avoiding the Francis Ngannou fight, because that's what he did. That tarnishes his legacy more than fighting and losing against him, because at least he's put himself in that position to go there. And him fighting Tom Aspinall is not guaranteed that Tom Aspinall's going to win. As much as I'll say that, and you'll say that, Brandon, I'm sure a lot of UK fans will say that, but it's not guaranteed that Jon Jones is going to lose that fight. Imagine if Jon Jones beat Tom Aspinall. Imagine what that does to his legacy then. That then solidifies him as the greatest combat sports athlete. He's alongside Muhammad Ali at that stage. Like you said, he's really up there with one of the greatest combat athletes of all time. So I think for Jon Jones, he's picking and choosing. And I think him going to Poatan, if I see a Poatan flying knee knockout, I'll be screaming from the rooftops if that does ever happen. But yeah, like I said, I think for Jones, if he does meander his way around and somehow pick a Pereira fight, then yeah, it will tarnish his legacy, because again, his two toughest tests, he never did truly face them. Tom Aspinall, Francis Ngannou, unfortunately, will be ifs and not wins.
You summed that up pretty perfectly there, Dan. We'll move on to the picks then. I'll kick us off with the first one. I'm going for a Jones round 3 TKO. I think his fight IQ is going to be matched. You mentioned it before, Dan. I think distance management is going to be massive here. We've seen something that happens with ring rust that I've noticed is that the fighters' whereabouts in the cage seems to kind of dwindle. You've seen it with Almir Albazi, where he just couldn't get the range right after being out for so long. It's hard to get that range right, isn't it? So that's something that comes with experience and with time in the octagon. I think Stipe is going to be completely missing that. Jon Jones is going to be able to close the distance, come in, land a couple of nice tie elbows in from the clinch, or maybe a bit further out, and he's going to get his kicks going, he's going to get the strikes going. I think he's going to back him up against the cage, drop him, TKO finish, round 3. Let's hear it, John. What's your pick?
Like I said earlier, I have this going to decision. I think Jones will get this decision. I think Stipe might steal a round or two. But the way Jones is fighting, Stipe's fighting has been mostly decisions in their career, I want to say. Especially now that they're older and ring rust and stuff like that. I see going decision easily.
Do you think coming into the latter rounds, obviously we're talking about heavyweights here, 5-round heavyweight fight, coming into them latter rounds, if they are busted, do you really think they will be as durable as what they were 10 years ago?
No, but I think their toughness will keep him there. They're not like the 265 pounders heavyweights, right? They're on the lighter side. I think Jones said he's 235. Stipe bulked up probably to 245. I think maximum we could see him is a 250. I think it's just going to be an exhausted, grueling fight that we just had to get out of the way just to see potentially Aspinall as the next up. But is this going to go to decision? It's going to be a lot of wrestling, a lot of people laying on top of each other for a couple of minutes during a fight.
Hopefully it doesn't play out that way. Hopefully it's a bit more exciting than them lying on top of each other for a few rounds.
Let's see what Dan says, because Dan usually gets these correctly. So if Dan agrees with me, then
Dan, let's hear it.
In my head going into this, I'm thinking, this is either going to be unfortunately really, really like awful, like what Jon's just described, where it's just a grueling. It should have been done 10 years ago, and it would have been much better fight. Where it is just tired wrestling in the fourth and fifth rounds, and then Jones gets a decision. I can see it going that way. I wanted to go a bit more adventurous, so I will pick Jones to get a TKO. I think it might be looking probably fourth round. And I can see this. It can be ground and pound. I think that's going to be a really useful tool for Jon Jones. Now, Jon Jones loved 12-6 elbows when they were illegal. Imagine what he's going to do now when he can actually do them without the referee stopping in. So I think the elbows are going to be really, really clinical for Jones. Like I said, that distance management early in the fight, he might be he might be say sort of 3 rounds up, and he might just then pursue that finish and get into his grappling exchanges with Stipe. I think he can get into 4 and 5. I don't think Stipe can fight for 25 minutes really. Again, I'm being ageist. I'm sorry. But I really don't think he can last that full 25 minutes. So I think it will be Jones. I think it'll be a late TKO. I'm going round 4. But I can see him just stopping it sort of towards the end of the fight, 4-5. But my official pick would be TKO round 4, ground and pound. Yeah, few 12-6 elbows in there. Open up Stipe.
I'm glad yours was closer to 9 than what it was, John. So I'm looking good for this one. Moving on then to the co-main event, potential fight of the year contender here, perhaps. Obviously Chandler finally getting a fight after waiting for Red Panty Night for it seemed like a lifetime. He's taking a more difficult fight here, to be fair to him. He was training for Conor McGregor, a striker, and he's taking Charles Oliveira, a grappling specialist. It's a harder fight for him for sure. These two fought back for the vacant lightweight title in 2021 whenever Khabib retired. Feels like a lifetime ago now, but it was only 3 years ago. Oliveira, of course, winning in the second round. The first round was what an unbelievable round that was. I think Oliveira got dropped, nearly got caught in the guillotine. Oliveira ends up taking the back in round 2, getting the rear naked choke finish. Great fight. Won a performance of the night bonus on the night as well. But compared to then, it was only 3 years ago, but these guys are at very different stages of their career. They've both picked up a few losses. Of course, Oliveira is only against Islam and Arman Sarukian, which was a very tight fight. Chandler's got a few losses in there as well. Where do you kind of see this fight in this division, Dan? It's obviously last time out it was for the title. This time out, bit of a far cry off it.
Yeah, I think for this lightweight fight now, you are looking like, although Oliveira I think probably is around 3 and Chandler's probably still up and around sort of your 4, 5, 6 ranking. The title does look a little bit far away for the both of these two, unless it's a really sort of stellar finish. You're looking first round submission for Charles, or if Chandler gets him out of there in round 1, then that could then launch him into a sort of a title picture. But like I said, unless it's a stellar finish, title does seem far away. A lightweight now, you're looking, Islam will fight Arman. That is going to happen. Whether it happens in January, which is rumored, or later on in the year, that is something that's going to happen. I do envision probably sooner than March. Like I said, but you don't want to be going into Ramadan where they both not fought yet for the year. You want Islam active before Ramadan and then later on in the year. So I think the title is sort of decided. You're looking at then, because of Holloway now, you've got that big money fight as an option. Any of these two fighters, Oliveira and Chandler, either of them up against Max Holloway is something that is always going to make money. So I think for both of them, they're in that money-making stage of their careers now. Oliveira's held the belt. He's one of the sport's most exciting champions, one of the most exciting, fighters in the lightweight division. So I think he'll always hold fans. Chandler the same, and like I said, this big looming figure of Conor McGregor does unfortunately still loom over the sport. Whether he ever returns to the octagon, we may never know, but he is always there. And Oliveira would fight him. Anyone would fight Conor McGregor. So I think for the both of these, the title does look a bit further away, like you did say, Brandon. So I think for them, it's if it's a stellar victory, by all means, cool for Islam. Oliveira can turn around and say, I got robbed in the Arman fight, and the Islam fight was a bad night at the office. Who wouldn't want to see Islam back in against Charles Oliveira? It's not something that fans wouldn't want to see. So I think Oliveira or Chandler can call for whatever they want. Chandler can say, I've never fought Islam. It's one of those things, like you said, it is fresh meat for the title, but it has to be a really, really quick, big finish for either fighter to get that opportunity. If not, then you're looking at a big, big opportunity for a BMF belt.
A BMF belt is very, very exciting, and both of these guys are BMF by nature, aren't they? As I mentioned before, he was obviously training for Conor McGregor for, I think it was 2 years nearly there, or at least a year and a half. Very, very active before it. He was fighting 2-3 times a year since he came into the UFC. Takes so long out. Can you see this affecting him, John?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like we just all the things we just said about Stipe and Jones. He hasn't been active either. He hasn't felt the adrenaline of being inside the cage, feeling a punch, getting punched. So, and he's been training for one specific guy who's a complete and other like karate, whatever he is, boxer type striker. And Oliveira is different. The only thing that has Chandler going for him is that he's faced him before. Although it was for 6 minutes, he's faced him before and he was winning round 1. And he just couldn't put Oliveira away. So now he has to figure out how he could do anything different from round 1 and not get caught in round 2 like he did in his last fight, to continue on this fight to get the W. Especially as this fight is again another 5-round fight. And I think he was definitely training for 5 rounds, even if it was for Conor or whoever it would be. He'll be ready for 5 rounds. It just, the impact of being inside the cage again. Now you're co-maining, you're at MSG on a big fight card with Jones as the main event. You're supposed to fight Conor. Conor will be watching. Maybe you're one title shot away from one fight away from the title shot. There's Max Holloway, who says he's lightweight. He has a BMF. We always said Chandler would be a good fight. There's a lot of factors going to Chandler, seeing if he could keep up with being off for 2 years and coming in with fighting somebody who's actually just fought back in April.
Tom Aspinall summed Chandler up. I was watching his breakdown of this fight and he summed him up pretty perfectly. He goes in there and has a street fight with 4-ounce gloves on, and that is very, very true. It's good as a fan to watch. As a coach, it would be an absolute nightmare. You can give him a strategic game plan. You could say to him, this is what happened last time against Oliveira, so I think you should do this. Let's face it, all that's out the window with Michael Chandler. He's going to go in there and throw hands. If he gets the finish, he gets the finish. If he gets finished, he gets finished, and he moves on from it. Do you think this will be as exciting as the first fight, Dan?
I think we can all hope so. We hope it's going to be more exciting than the main event. That's the main thing. But yeah, no, I think it's definitely one that's going to be, it's going to be as good for as long as it lasts, because I see a finish in this fight. Is it 3 or 5 rounds?
5 rounds. 5 rounds.
It is 5. Well, yeah, no, it's definitely going to be a finish. Then 100%. Yeah, no, I see a finish in this one, but it's definitely, I think it can live up to that first fight, that first 6 minutes. I think we will definitely see another fight of the year contender. Whether we get a conclusive finish, whether it is Oliveira getting that submission early, or whether that is Chandler clipping him and actually getting Oliveira out of there. Something only, in recent years, the only person who's really stopped and got Oliveira gone is Islam. Like I said, Arman couldn't finish him, and Arman nearly got finished by Oliveira a couple of times. So I think for Chandler, I do agree with you. This 2-year break for him is going to be difficult. It's going to be rough. But unlike Stipe, I've seen Chandler. I mean, Chandler could look ripped after 6 months on a Paddy Pimblett diet. He's got a crazy physique. So I mean, I think for Chandler, he'll fare well, but I can see a finish, and I can see it living up to the first fight. Definitely going to be very, very, very exciting.
Who's the finish coming from, Dan? Let's get your pick first here.
I mean, look, Charles Oliveira is unfortunately one of my fan favorites, and I am never going to pick against this man. I've got him submission round 1. We're going all in. He's going to catch him early. It's Michael Chandler. He might just double leg him, and he might just dive into a guillotine. You never know. But I'm going all in. Charles Oliveira, submission round 1. Islam, you got lucky. He's coming back for his belt.
Charlie Olive's title run starts again. John, let's hear it.
That's crazy that you said that, because I was gonna shock everybody and say round 1 submission for Oliveira. If not round 1, I was gonna say round 1 finish for Oliveira, definitely. I like how you were gonna build up the 5-rounder and talk about 5 rounds. I was gonna come in here and be round 1 finish, but you just stole all my thunder, Dan. All of it.
Don't worry about that.
Oh yeah, I see it. First round finish. I kind of see this as like the Gaethje fight, where Oliveira's Gaethje. I think he's gonna. The chin hasn't been tested from Chandler for 2 years of being away. He hasn't been as punched, and he is droppable. I think he got dropped. He got dropped by Oliveira. He got dropped by Gaethje. Dropped by Poirier. Did he get dropped by Tony? Yes, he got dropped by Tony. Like, he's droppable, and I think Oliveira's gonna do quick work of that. Get a performance bonus. Keep his finishing streak in the UFC going. I think he's already up there for the most finishes in the UFC. Most submissions for sure, so he's gonna get the most finishes up there. But yeah, first round finish, Charlie Olives. Let's get it.
I'm gonna go for a Charlie Olives hat trick here, although I'm going round 2. I actually see this playing out the same as the first fight. I don't know why. I think it's just because I have the first fight in my head, and I just don't see any difference in them now. I think it will be round 2. I think he'll get a sub off the back after Chandler doing something stupid like deciding to grapple with him when Charlie Olives is lying on his back waiting on him. So that's my pick. You 2 going round 1, I'm going round 2. Maybe Chandler will come out and shock us all. Who knows? He has got the potential and the power to do it. He has a wee tank at lightweight, so there is a shout. Moving on then to a bit of British talent, a bit of Scottish talent here. He's been brought in to fight Bo Nickel as Paul Craig. Stylistically, this is really interesting because in an era where you don't really get specialists, you get full mixed martial artists, very good all-rounders. But here we've got a wrestling specialist taking on a jiu-jitsu specialist. So it's really, really interesting. Paul Craig, I spoke to his coach beforehand, interviewed him, James Dillon, and he says Paul Craig knows what the crack is here. He knows he's been brought in for Bo Nickel to make a name on him. We've seen him thrive in these situations before. Ankalaev, Jamal Hill, Nikita Krylov. Is he going to thrive in this situation, Dan? Is this going to be another Paul Craig upset in the world?
I think we can all hope so. Like I said, for the UK fans, I think we can all hope this is the moment he scalps that big American prospect. Because, like I said, Bo Nickel is in American MMA. This guy he's the next guy. This is their Khamzat Chimaev. This is their this is their Carlos Prates. This guy is the one. This is the next coming of Jon Jones. This guy's going to reign supreme. So hey, look, if Paul Craig can cinch in an arm triangle, I'm all in. If he can get a submission off his back, excellent. But it's going to be very, very tough for Paul Craig. Like I said, his recent performances, unfortunately, I think he would tell you himself, they've been lackluster. Like I said, I did like the move down to middleweight. I thought like heavyweight did look, it was becoming a bit too difficult for him. The power was, unfortunately, with his opponents. I think the move to middleweight looked good. Like I said, that win over Andre Muniz was amazing when he first moved down to 185. But I think, I think for Paul Craig, we can all cross our fingers. He's definitely not out of this. Like I said, if there's going to be plus money on Paul Craig, there's always plus money on Paul Craig, and he's always worth a punt. So definitely have a look at Paul Craig this weekend.
He has made a name out of this. I actually fancy Paul Craig more in this in comparison to like the Kai Berhalio or someone that wasn't as well known as Bo Nickel, because these are the fights that Paul Craig goes out and wins. I don't know how he does it, but John, do you think this is just going to be Bo Nickel, maybe similar to the Cody Brundage one, where he comes in, gets the job done? Do you think Paul Craig's going to upset the world again?
Every time Paul Craig fights, I'm super nervous for his opponent. Like when he fought Caio, I was like, oh, I don't know. This is exactly what Craig does to people. Caio's an up and comer. If he beats him, I mean, good, because whoever he beats becomes champion or fights for the belt, like Ankalaev and Jamal Hill.
Mm-hmm.
But it's super nervous. I think it's just a solid, good test for Nickel again. We keep forgetting Nickel's like what, 5-0 in MMA, 6-0.
Is it his hardest test yet?
I mean, who did he have? Val Woodburn, Cody Brundage. Who else did he fight?
Yeah,
Is this his third UFC
Is it,
fight?
I think it's just them two, is it not?
Jamie Pickett as well, that's right. And then
Jamie
like
Pickett.
2 wins on the Contender Series.
The complaint about Bo Nickel's last fight is like, you're not fighting anybody good. You're not fighting anybody known. You're fighting a mediocre wrestler. Now they're like, oh, well, now you have Paul Craig. They're going to find something to say. Oh, Paul Craig is old. He only is good at jiu-jitsu off his back. But I think it's good. It's just slowly building up Bo Nickel to have a good record. It's like Hamza. I'm pretty sure Hamza came in with an 8-0 record or in the UFC, or 8-1 record. No, 8-0 record. And he fought. Now he's like 13-0. So it looks good. Bo Nickel's very, very green in this still. He fought twice in Contender Series just to get him a W on his record. He fought 3 times in the UFC now. All been finishes. It is building up. His record's not even double digits. It's not even past about the 5 mark. So you get him when he starts being 8-0, 7-8-0. That's when you start looking at actual real contenders. But again, I think Paul. Just to summarize this fight, really is, do not get trapped by Paul Craig. I think that's anybody who comes in and faces Paul Craig is, do not let him get on his back. And if you get him on his back, do not get submitted. That's as simple as the game plan should be for Bo Nickel.
It is. I think Bo Nickel going in there, he will be well aware of the position Paul Craig is most dangerous in, and that is when he's on his back. So he won't be too willing to go and start ground and pounding here from guard or anything like that. I think he'll be trying his best to avoid that. Looking at the striking of this matchup, Dan, because I think we might see more striking than what you would think here. Bo Nickel took his first striking lesson, I think it was 2.5 years ago, which is absolutely mental. Paul Craig has also said that he's green to the striking himself, and he's been trying to work on it a lot over the past couple of years. Who do you think has the upper edge on the feet here?
I think just purely based on experience, you're looking at Paul Craig now with a record. I think he's just short of about 30 fights, 30 pro fights. Looking at someone with 30 odd pro fights against Bo Nickel, who, like John said, 5-0, 6-0. You're gonna give the striking edge to Paul Craig, even though he is a specialist in jiu-jitsu. Bo Nickel can't bring 6 fights worth of experience and compare it to 30 fights of experience. It's just not comparable. So I think you've got to give that advantage to Paul Craig. Now, whether that is utilized well is another thing. Like I said, the amount of times that you watch Paul Craig and you think he's just not investing in the striking at all. The one that sticks out in my mind is the Uzdemir fight. He was just reverting back to his back the whole time. He needs to be a bit more. Just needs to be a bit more, not brave, but he needs to be a bit more invested in his striking. I think, like I said, Bo Nickel. Again, this is the same questions we're asking. Bo Nickel's chin's not been tested, has it? He's, like I said, we fought Jamie Pickett, Cody Brundage, and Val Woodburn. Yes, let's clip him. Like I said, Paul Craig, he was a light heavyweight. He's still going to hold that light heavyweight power. So I think for Paul Craig, he should invest in the striking, because if Bo Nickel does double leg you, well, what have you got? An absolutely excellent jiu-jitsu game. So I think for Paul Craig, he definitely should leave with the striking. I think that Paul Craig does have that edge in this fight, definitely.
In terms of picks then, John, you kick us off this time so that Dan doesn't steal your thunder again.
No, my thunder was Oliveira. I want it to be like the bang. But I was gonna go Bo Nickel. He's gonna do the Paul Craig. He's gonna submit Paul Craig in. No. He's gonna TKO Paul Craig in round 1. I think he's gonna get a first round finish. I think he's gonna be a slightly quicker, and he has better striking than Paul. First round knockout.
Ban, let's hear it.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth in my head like 1,000 times because I'm like, surely Paul Craig can't submit Bo Nickel, and surely I don't want to go there, but I think I'm going to go there. I think I might do it just because the UK fans. So Paul Craig is going to get an armbar in round 2, and Bo Nickel is going to suffer his first defeat, and the American dream is shattered. Unfortunately, this guy is not the next coming of Khabib. He is unfortunately being submitted by Paul Craig, the submission wizard.
And they might still go on to win the title, as John says.
Well, yeah,
That's what happens when
exactly.
you defeat Paul Craig.
Just because you lose to Paul Craig doesn't mean you're out for title contention. Look at just Jamal Hill. I think he fought Paul Craig 3 fights before getting
he got his arm broken. Yeah, 3 fights before.
And then Ankalaev as well. You know what? Ankalaev's first fight. I just want to mention I like your pick, Dan, because I'm definitely putting a bet on that because I feel like that's as much as like Paul Craig is a one-trick pony. You have a 50% chance of that happening. I feel in my head. Hopefully the odds go down for that kind of finish and for Paul Craig, and I'm gonna put all my money on that.
I'm going to be completely biased here as well and go for a Paul Craig sub. Going for a Paul Craig sub. Well saying this is the Combat Sports UK podcast, folks, because me and Dan are being completely biased here, going with our hearts and probably not our head. But I've had a feeling about this one since it was announced. This is a last chance saloon for Paul Craig for me. If Paul Craig gets beat here, I can see him going to the PFL. I can see him going elsewhere. Light heavyweight didn't really work out for him. His last chance was dropping down to middleweight. If he gets beat here 3 in a row, I think it will be the end of him. Paul Craig knows this. I'm going for a round 3 sub. Getting beat the first 2 rounds. I think Bo Nickel's going to be wary of using his wrestling too much because, yes, he may get a takedown, but what happens after the takedown? Paul Craig's on his back. That's the place you do not want to be with Paul Craig. So it's a really interesting fight stylistically where you've got someone so good at wrestling in Bo Nickel, but he might not be able to utilise it fully. As Dan says, looking at the experience on the feet, yes, Paul Craig has never blown me away with his striking, but looking at the experience in comparison to Bo Nickel's 2.5 years, he's got every chance on the feet. So it is a difficult matchup stylistically for Bo Nickel. I'm going with my heart and not my head. I'm making every reason I can for Paul Craig to win this fight, so I'm going for a round 3 triangle, similar to Ankalaev, but I don't think it'll be as late, but I think he'll get it in round 3. Looking forward to that one. Should be a good fight. Hopefully it's not a round 1 finish as John was picking. Hopefully it does last a wee bit longer. Next up, another interesting one. It's the Battle of Brazil. We've got Karine Silva taking on Vivian Araujo, flyweights. Why is this on the main card? Let's discuss this. We'll start off with this. We've got a pay-per-view here, Jon Jones Fight Week. UFC have obviously done it for a reason, and the only reason I can see is that they're pushing Karine Silva. She is a submission specialist. We've spoke before about the difference in exciting grappling and unexciting grappling. Karine Silva is one of these fighters where if she's in a dominant position, she isn't happy with that dominant position. She wants the submission. She'll risk the position for the submission. The UFC love it. The fans love it. It's good to see a bit of exciting grappling, and she's got it. She's got subs, she's got guillotines, darces, heel hooks, arm bars. She's got a full repertoire of submissions. Is that the only reason you can see, Dan, why they've put this on the main card? Because it is a bit of a strange placement from them.
Yeah, no, I think it is like I agree with you. The placement is strange. Prelim headliner, yeah, I can see that, but on the main card, to be honest, I mean, you look at this main card now and you think outside of Oliveira Chandler, which is obviously going to be one of the best co-mains of the year, this main card, the only ranked fighter, if he is even ranked, is Paul Craig, no? Or is Karine Silva? She's ranked as well. So, like I said, for Karine Silva, it's definitely an opportunity. They're
They're
both
both
ranked,
ranked, yeah.
But like I
11 and
said,
9.
the main card, if you're comparing it, if we look back to 308, it is weak in comparison. So I think for Karine Silva, this is a moment to stamp your name. This is, it's MSG. It's one of the biggest cards of the year. Jon Jones is headlining. Like I said, we'll get down to some of the prelims later. The opportunities on prelims for people to pick up big wins and big finishes. This is the biggest stage Karine Silva is going to have in her career to date, definitely. She goes on and subs this Brazilian girl, Viviane Araújo, like she has done it. I think she's on a 9-fight win streak. I think 8 of those wins are submissions, or something like 7 of them. She's an absolute wizard on the ground. So I think she needs to get a big finish, big submission. And I think, look, flyweight, you're looking at Shevchenko Furo, it's probably going to happen. Grasso Blanchfield. Hey, look, if Rose Namajunas sticks around, I'd be screaming for that name if I'm Karine Silva and I'd pick up a win this weekend, definitely.
For Viviane Araújo, John, do you think she's lost 3 out of her last 4? She's got the momentum as well and truly with Karine Silva coming into this.
Excuse me.
Kind of similar to the Paul Craig matchup. It looks as if Viviane Araújo has been brought in here for Karine Silva to make a name on her on a big stage like a Jon Jones pay-per-view. Out of the 3 fights she was beat, one was against Alexa Grasso, one was against Amanda Ribas. She has been beat by high-level fighters. Do you think there's a bit of a mixed match here, or what's your thoughts on it?
I think definitely mismatch. I think it's a good chance to build up the flyweight division because it's kind of lackluster. We're trying to get more challenges, trying to get an actual kind of name going. I think, like Dan said, what's her name? Karine Silva. You were right. She is on a 9-fight win streak. 7 of them coming by finish, which you don't see a lot for a women's division for someone to be on a streak like that. I think this is clearly just to get Karine Silva a win, get her higher ranked, and then eventually get her a title shot. This is nothing more than that. I don't know why it is on the main card as well. I don't think a lot of the people coming to MSG would stay for that fight in their stance. Not to be unfair for the girls. They're good fighters. Silva's a great streak, but I don't think if you're casual watching MSG, you go there and be like, oh, this is the fight I want to stay and watch.
It does certainly look like one of them ones you would call a smoke break, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe we are being unfair. Maybe we are, but
the thing is, if it was not on a pay-per-view, because pay-per-view you're paying, right? Dana expects, like, okay, you're paying big money tickets to go see go to be MSG, or you're at home and you're buying a pay-per-view. You want to watch some of the great fighters. You want to watch a stack card and get your money's worth, basically. You got Jones and Stipe, you got Oliveira, Chandler, you got an interesting fight between Nickel and Paul Craig. But then after that, before that, it just drops. It's like you're paying it for just the 3 last fights on the card. And you want to see, not do it level UC 300 level, but you want to do something that, like, will make people actually pay and be worth the tickets. You don't want people, because it'll be very sad if you see people leave the stands as soon as this 3rd fight on the main card goes, or 4th fight, and then people leave and come back. So, yeah.
it is a strange one. It is a strange one. I think the kind of thing that pissed me off a wee bit, not that it pissed me off, but we have to pay £20 for this in the UK. Put it this way, we have to pay £20 for this. This is a pay-per-view in the UK. Only the big cards are pay-per-views in the UK. We always talk about it, but we usually get it along with a £25 a month subscription to BT Sports or TNT Sports now. We get the UFC. Some cards throughout the year are pay-per-view. We do have to pay £20. This is one of them. I don't think it's worth it. I know, John, you're probably laughing because I think you have to pay, what, $60 or $70 or something?
Make that $80 with a subscription to ESPN Plus.
That is rough. That is rough. But you're like looking at this main card, and we're going to talk about Mauricio Ruffi in a wee minute. But clear winner there, Karine Silva, clear winner. Looking at the bookies, Bo Nickel, clear winner. Oliveira Chandler, tight enough. Main event, Jones, clear winner. These are 4 fights where, you know, if there's no upsets, if there's no big shocks, you can nearly pick the clear winner in them. So it's a bit of an interesting one. But I'll kick us off with our picks for this one. I'm actually going to go for a Karine Silva decision. It's a wee bit out there because she's been getting finish after finish, but something that Vivian Araujo is very good at doing is grinding out decisions. I think Karine Silva will go 6-0 in the UFC. She's currently 5-0, but Vivian is durable. She will be hard to get out of there. I think she has to keep it on the feet as much as possible. If she allows Karine Silva to get the takedowns and work some of that magic jiu-jitsu that she's been doing, I think it will be over quickly, but she's durable enough. I think she'll be able to keep the fight on the feet for a wee bit longer and maybe survive on the ground. So I'm going for a Karine Silva decision. Dan, take it away.
I think I've gone far too outrageous on my pick so far, so I'm going to tone it down now, and I'm going to side with yourself, Brandon. Yeah, I can see a decision here for Karine Silva. Obviously, like you said, she wants that submission. That'd be a big statement on a big card. But no, I can see a decision. I agree. Vivian Araujo is a grinder. Like I said, she will see that final bell. She gets through the difficult positions. If Karine Silva gets to her early, though, like you said, you could be looking at another round one submission, and we could be looking at a very, very quick main card. But no, I think I've gone too outrageous on my pick so far, so I think I'll tone it down a bit. I'll go for a decision in this one. But yeah, no, I definitely see Karine Silva continuing her win streak. 10 wins in a row, like you said, she's up there ready for another fight with another contender, and then looking at that title fight properly end of 2025, maybe about 12 to 18 months from now.
And again, I am happy you've went the same as me, so I'll definitely be putting my money on that one. John, let's hear it.
I'll make it a hat trick. I think, yeah, I like what Dan said. I think Araujo is a grinder. She has the experience with going with a lot of good people. She will know not to get caught in a submission. The only way is probably a knockout if she does lose by, which I don't think the women flyweight division have that power necessarily for a clean knockout. I mean, you never know, but I do see Silva going for a 3-round decision.
Hopefully that comes in a hat trick for all 3 of us. I'm sure that'll be in all of our accumulators and parlays on Saturday night then. Moving on then to the main card opener, a very interesting one. We've just made a video talking about the Fighting Nerds gym and talking about what Carlos Cortez done last weekend. This weekend we've got maybe the second or third or fourth most exciting fighter coming out of that gym. What an unbelievable gym. Mauricio Ruffi taking on James Luntop in the lightweight division. Ruffi's UFC debut last time out against Jamie Monarchy, it got him the performance of the night bonus. Very well deserved. Watching that, I think he's like I always see comparisons, and I think it's true. He's like a Conor McGregor at featherweight. The way he moves, he just reminds me of that Bruce Lee quote, "Move like water," or whatever the quote was. That's what Ruffi's like. He's like a McGregor in his prime, very, very slick. But as well as the striking, he's got the grappling to match it. That scissor sweep he landed, Dan, what about that in that first fight? That performance from start to finish, unreal.
Yeah, definitely. He's that's what you want from a debut. Like I said, like I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, Hamid Mokaev debut. I mentioned it, like you said, Ruffi. It's a debut where you do ignite the fans. You get that performance when you are then a name everyone keeps their eye on. I remember his debut; he was unbelievable. He did a scissor sweep, like you mean, like it's one of those where you got those highlight reels, and he's definitely picked those up in those debuts. Like I said, I think his debut was quite some time ago. I was surprised it's taken this long to sort of see him again. I think he might have had some cancellations, but for Mauricio Ruffi, like I said, I think this is a replacement opponent as well. Is it James Luntop? I think so. It's good to see he's stayed on the card. But yeah, for Mauricio Ruffi, that debut is a special debut, and I think he well earned his performance bonus, and that's what's landed in this position on the card. This is main card of a pay-per-view opener. Who was here before? His teammate Carlos Prates at UFC 305 against Ling Ji against the Leech. So I think for Ruffy, this is opportunity. Get that KO, get that rival moment, kick the night off. That's what you want to see from him. But again, if the jiu-jitsu's there and he gets to that position, he will be finishing the fight early and quickly with a submission.
Does the dynamic of this fight look the same as the one we've just discussed, John, where you've got Mauricio Rufy maybe taking the place of Kareem Silva? You know, you could look at James Luntop. He hasn't won yet in the UFC. He's won his Dana White Contender Series fight, and he's lost his first two. That in itself does not warrant you to open up the Jon Jones pay-per-view. Do you see the dynamic just being the same as the Kareem Silva fight here, where he's just been set up for Mauricio Rufy to go and run through him?
Yes, but he's coming from a more famous camp, especially Parada's fighting the week before. This is if this was a stack pay-per-view, this would be probably the prelim feature, right? This would be the fight that, like Dan said, will kick off the pay-per-view, and then we'll have somebody like Gaethje versus Poirier. Maybe not like to that caliber, but somebody ranked, like Australia. Was it when was Izzy versus Duplessis? Was it Hooker versus Gamrot?
Gamrot.
Yeah.
Like something like that. Somebody lower ranked like should be opening up the pay-per-view, and these should be people we kick it off with a Ruffy first round knockout, and then we get straight to the pay-per-view knowing like, oh crap, this is about to begin. So I just threw in my prediction in there, but yeah, this is the same situation as Silva. Right before it, they both, in my opinion, if it was a stack pay-per-view, should be on the featured on the feature prelims, or at least one of them be the feature and one of them open up the main card just to get predicting a knockout and then get the party going and sort of way to speak.
I think he's been brought in exactly for that reason. I'm very, very high on Mauricio Rufy. He's very, very exciting. I think his debut, like, it drew a hell of a lot of eyeballs, didn't it, Dan? There was so many people was talking about that performance afterwards. Do you think this is just going to be another one where he goes out first round, maybe second round? Do you think it's going to go all his way? Do you think James Luntop can offer anything whatsoever that can put Rufy in trouble?
It's for Ruffy, like I said, 10-1. I mean, he's not faced much adversity yet in his career, and obviously not in his UFC career with just that one debut performance. So I think for him, I can't see Luntop causing issues for Ruffy, unfortunately. But this is a guy like you mentioned, won his Contender Series fight. He's lost his first two in the UFC. So is this the real question? Is he at this level? And I believe Mauricio Rufy is definitely at this level. So I think it unfortunately might be a case of showing that class. Now, for Mauricio Rufy, whether it goes late, I do highly doubt it. I think it's like we've all mentioned, it's an opportunity now for Rufy to get that finish. So I think it's not something that James Luntop, unfortunately, if James Luntop comes out and gets this done, fair play to him. I think he may only be himself and his coaches and his family might only be the only people picking him this weekend, because I think this is unfortunately one of those fights where it feels a bit like boxing. Unfortunately, we're coming back to it again. It feels a bit like boxing where it's all this red corner's going to win this fight, red corner's going to win this fight. It feels a bit like that, unfortunately. But I think for Rufy, Luntop won't be causing him problems, and I will be going Rufy round 1 TKO.
I'll back you up on that one. I'm going for a round 1 KO as well. I think it's going to be spectacular. I think he'll do something special. Similar to Protez, he knows how to pick that punch. He knows how to get a highlight reel KO. This fight nerds gym, I keep saying it, but unreal stuff coming out of there at the moment. But I think I'm going to go for a round 1 KO. John, are you going to make it a hat-trick on this one?
Round 1 KO for Rufy. Let's go.
Can't see anything else. And fair play to James Luntop if he does get out of round 1, and if he does make it a fight, even competitive, he's done more than what we've expected. Moving on then to the prelims, I always like to give you a chance to discuss a prelim pick. I was going to talk about Oban Elliott, but I'm going to leave that to the Welshman. I'll let him discuss Oban. there's some big names in these prelims. These prelims kind of make up for the main card in a way for me. You know, you've got Jonathan Martinez taking on Marcus McGee. Marcus McGee is a wee tank. Looking forward to seeing him back in there. You've got Chris Weidman in there. You've got Jim Miller in there. Marcin Tybura. You know, there's some big fighters. Veronica Hardy opening up the card, of course. Go and check out the interview that's on our channel. Rob interviewed her there last week. Very, very good interview. So go and check that out. Some great fights on these prelims, or some great fighters on the prelims. I wouldn't really say great fights, but some great fighters. John, take us away with your prelims pick.
Well, I think I gotta mention Veronica Hardy, Dan Hardy's wifey. I think she's been undefeated since she came to the UFC. She looks solid. So I can't complain about her. I want to give a shout out to Chris Weidman. I don't know if people are excited to watch him, but he's fighting in MSG against Eric Anders. So this fight could either go one or two ways. It could either go one of the fight of the year contention, or just two old men fighting each other with leg kicks. I'm happy Jon Tadinitz is going to get the fight because he was supposed to fight Derek Lewis. Right? And didn't get the chance. So good for Tybura coming off a loss, coming into fight an undefeated prospect in the heavyweight division. And lastly, I think you mentioned it. I think Marcus McGee is really good. I'm interested to see what he gets Jonathan Martinez. I would suggest this would be a striking fight to end the featured prelims. I actually think this is a really good featured prelim because Martinez was just ranked. He lost his ranking to Aldo, so it's right up there. Yeah, I think it's gonna be a solid prelims. I think some names could come out of this if they get a good finish, and if the casuals are not watching it. So if our non-casuals are watching it, and we'll get some names, we'll probably have some good matchmaking in the future.
For sure. Dan, I think I already know where you're going with this one.
Of course. I said, how could I not go with Oban Elliott? Like you said, 3-0 in the UFC now. It's just that first finish. That's what we need, and what a place to do it in MSG. So for Oban Elliott, unfortunately with Jack Shaw, like I said, it was disappointing over in Canada. I'll blame John for that. He was a jinx in the arena. So like I said, for Oban Elliott, it's just a case of bringing it back for Shaw MMA. So I think for the fight itself, Basil Hafez, this is his record's not all that shiny. Like I said, about 9-4-1, so a mixed record. But whenever you hear Basil Hafez, you think of Jack Della Maddalena because of that debut performance. So I think it's a great name for Oban Elliott. And hey, look, Jack Della Maddalena couldn't finish Basil Hafez. Imagine if you do. If you're Oban Elliott and you really want to get that finish, that would be perfect. And like I said, getting that finish on a massive card like this, and he's got the mic skills. Like I said, he's best mates with Chael Sonnen. He is absolutely unbelievable, and he's a superstar in the making. Unfortunately, I'm Welsh bias. I am going to have that, but he's got the mic skills. He's got the charisma. He's got everything you need to be that superstar. And like I said, if he wins here in impressive fashion, when the UFC do come back to the UK in March or whenever next year, hey, look, you could be looking at like I said, a top of the prelims, or you could be looking at a main card opener for Oban Elliott. Like you said, this is a real great opportunity for him. I believe he can get it done. I believe he can get a really, really great finish. And if he does, hey, look, an extra 50 grand coming his way. And definitely a bright future for Oban. Like I said, when Gangster Mania is on its way.
Gangster Mania is on its way. We will end the podcast on that. Oban Elliott, big chance here to go 3-0 in 2024. Unbelievable stuff from him. As you say, I'm really high on Oban Elliott. Taking your Wolves biasness out of it, there might still be a wee bit of UK British biasness in it, I suppose. But taking that out of it, Oban Elliott, he's got it all. There's a reason why he's very, very linked up with the WWE at the minute. His friends with CM Punk, Chael Sonnen. He's got the charisma, he's got the mic skills, as you say. So hopefully he goes 3-0 in 2024. That brings us to an end of this podcast. Hopefully we get a good card this weekend. hopefully there's some upsets in there and the main card doesn't go as we've predicted. We the big
Paul Craig.
favourites winning every fight. Paul Craig's the one. Get Paul Craig and the accumulators, folks. Boost up the odds. Triangle coming your way.
No,
Jon,
don't boost up
no.
his odds. We want him to go more. You want the odds to lower for him, so we get
You
more
want
money.
everyone to hammer Bo Nickel, so Paul Craig
Exactly.
is like plus 3,000 for a submission.
Oh, if it could be plus 8,000, I would love that. Plus,
We could be counting our money on the way to the bank if Paul Craig locks in that sub. Thank you very much for joining me, Jon and Dan. It's great to have you on the podcast, as always.
Thank you.
always enjoy it, especially when my picks are correct and get some money my way.
It's not very often then, is it?
Oh my goodness, Dan. Well, who said Paradas by murder? Yeah.
Oh, well,
We're still claiming
hey,
the
look,
assist
I'm-
on that, by the way. You weren't specific,
Yeah.
Jon. Murder could be beating him for 2 rounds and then finish him in the 3rd. We're claiming the
Well,
assist for that round 1.
You said round 1 for me, so I got it done. But now that Max Holloway's not fighting for the rest of the year, I'm unbiasedness coming my way now.
there you are.
We'll get the picks right now.
But hopefully we get them right. Dan, enjoy your holiday.
Cheers, thank you very much. I'll be back on a couple of weeks' time. I think probably the Macau review card. That's 23rd November, that one. That's a good event coming up. So, yeah, I'll probably be on the review show for that. So, hopefully, it's another good card to look at.
What time does Macau start for you guys? Because for me, it's 6 a.m. And I hate it.
I think
mean,
it's a
it will be
weird
good
time.
for
I
us
think
then, won't
ours is like midday, I think, over in the UK. It might even be like an 11 a.m. start. It's a
Where's
bit
that
odd,
again?
but- Macau,
Macau?
China.
I know, yeah. But I think China has 2 different time zones.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It'll be a funny one, yeah. I must
I
actually
think
check what time
it's
that
the
is. for us.
Saturday morning for us. So have that alongside the football.
Well,
Lovely.
No, for us, it's 6 a.m.
Oh,
For Canada, 6 a.m. For the
Is that,
Oh, yeah.
is
East
that
Coast.
prelims 6 a.m.?
Prelims 6 a.m. Yeah.
Prelims 6 a.m. You would think it would be, yeah. Probably midday then for us on the Saturday. That'll be a strange one. But looking forward to it. Thank you very much again for joining, and thank you for listening to the Combat Sports UK podcast. You'll get us every week, every Monday/Tuesday morning. Usually we have uploaded. Follow us on Instagram where you get clips of the pod. Follow us on TikTok. You'll get the clips on there. On Twitter, on Facebook. We are your one-stop shop for all of your MMA, gossip and news. Thank you very much for listening, and we will see you in the next one.
Conceive, believe, achieve.
This is former UFC middleweight champion of the world, Michael Bisping,
Paddy the Baddy here. You're listening to Combat Sports UK.
and you're watching Combat Sports UK.